Hey y'all, so before we get into this video, I want to address a couple things regarding both this specific topic and type of content, as well as like a kind of more general update. First and quickly, my video titled Human Evolution and the Argument for Veganism contained a factual inaccuracy regarding the specific diet and food acquisition methods of Miocene apes. I want to use this as an opportunity to better my content and remain transparent as a layman when I mess up, so the video has been privatized and is currently having the inaccuracy revised. A corrected version of that video will be re-uploaded in the coming weeks. There'll also be some additional content in it. Second housekeeping thing is more broadly regarding my political content, including this video and any future or past videos of a similar type. I will be fully transparent with you that I think we are heading quickly to a situation where peaceful resistance will not be enough. Historically, violence has been necessary to overthrow oppressive regimes and systems. That being said, the intent of this video and any other video made on similar topics is absolutely not to encourage violent action among my viewership. In order for violent resistance to actually serve any real function and purpose, it must be communal and have a specific goal in mind, and something we as a wider community agree is a solution. While admittedly I feel no sympathy for the death of fascists or Nazis, I do not think random or targeted acts of violence by individuals help the larger issues, and I do not encourage them. What I do encourage is to get involved with local organizations, such as PSL, mutual aid groups, or other local communist or socialist parties, etc., to attend protests, help your neighbor, and stand up for people who are most at risk. These groups and actions are non-violent, and I want to make that very, very clear. And if there comes a time where violent resistance is necessary, you will have a community and network of people you trust to help you make safe and effective choices. The purpose of my content is never to encourage people to go out and turn peaceful protests into riots, to harm individuals, or otherwise commit acts of violence, only to discuss the historical relevance of it and help people understand the direction our country is currently headed in and what a future where violence is the only option may look like. Okay, that out of the way, let's get into the video.
I like to keep Jesus close, but my demons closer.
I've been seeing a lot of Democrats, moderates, and otherwise neoliberals preaching about the value of voting in order to combat the actions of the current administration. This is by no means a don't vote video. As of writing this, I voted in my local/state elections yesterday. Voting, especially locally and statewide, is still important, especially whenever many states are currently trying to put out fires created by the federal government at the moment. However, the specific instance I saw a lot of this, quote, get out there and vote that prompted this video was on an independent journalist's video talking about how Trump refused to issue SNAP benefits despite a ruling that mandated he did. And of course, I've seen similar sentiments on other news clips discussing the slew of times that he's neglected to listen to the authority of other branches of government and authorities. Times he simply decided that they didn't have any authority, he was the only authority, and he of course did what he wanted anyway. I find it funny, not funny, but I mean funny, that people react to behaviors like this by saying we need to get out there and vote. That we need to vote to get more Democrats in Congress, to impeach him or otherwise stop him. Of course, I find this funny because it's odd to me that they think he'd listen. If he won't listen to people telling him not to do things like, deprive people of food, I'm pretty sure he's even less likely to listen when they tell him he just must abandon his power altogether. The right can bitch and moan all they want about that January 6th wasn't that bad, or that it wasn't even truly Trump supporters, or that Trump didn't instigate it, but that's nothing but an attempt to rewrite history that I see no value in seriously entertaining. Well, I have a whole video going over his bullshit in his first term. It was nothing compared to the last year alone, and yet at the end of that term, a normal, regular, expected transition of power, it was met with violence, multiple deaths, and threats on government officials like Pence and Pelosi's lives. What makes people think that this time will be any different, or at least any better? It's far more likely that it will differ in being worse if it does differ, just as every other egregious behavior of his past has only been further amplified in the last year. Are we not built to recognize patterns? I mean, that's rhetorical, of course. We are all well aware that humans fucking love spotting patterns to a point where we see them when they don't exist. But I more so mean to ask not if people can see the pattern, but rather why they choose to ignore it. If it's the lifelong indoctrination we've been fed, the American exceptionalism, that we're the most democratic country on earth, despite ranking 28th in democracy, that our system of governance is simply impervious to any true corruption, dictatorship, or tyranny. If maybe it's what I discussed in my video, The American Myth of Nonviolence, that we're all fed an idea that the only way to solve systemic issues is by working within the system, that any other option is quantifiable only as heretical to our pseudo-biblical perception of our Constitution. Maybe it's our two-party system, that our left is really just center-right, so of course the people who are on the quote-unquote left on the US scale, the Democrats, simply ideologically oppose any real change because they see their subjugation under capitalism as a net positive, that they cannot rationalize radical action as ever good. It impedes too heavily on their neoliberal worldview. Frankly, I don't know. I feel like it's probably a combination of those things, among others. But I also think what does radicalize most people, at least in the US right now, is seeing the ideas and values their country has taught them fall apart in front of their eyes. That those checks and balances, that impenetrable democracy, that they're not working, that they're not impenetrable. And for people already sympathetic to a leftist perspective who've always had the real left demonized to them but never truly contemplated it, this is scary. It's scary that they're starting to agree with the left sometimes. It's scary the way leaving a religion is. The values and beliefs you built your own ideologies around are crumbling. You see them fail to work, and you feel lost and hopeless and scared. Many people who were Democrats have slowly shifted further left in the last year alone and have shifted a bit farther overall from the start of the first Trump administration. People don't like their ideas challenged. That's true of just about everyone. But sometimes you get hit over the head with the reality of their failure, and all you can do sometimes is grasp at the straws you have left in front of you. Like voting. I understand why people's default reaction is to say get out and vote. It's a good thing we as a society value and encourage democratic processes, arguably even that we assign moral value to your individual participation in that process. That is not on the long list of failures of the American system. It is a success, but the positive association we have with voting does not mean that we must demonize or rule out all other forms of change. It would be lovely if everything could be solved at the ballot box, if our country worked in a way where your vote truly counted fairly without an electoral college, or really if we had a leader who respected that democratic process as much as the vast, vast majority of his country does. But that is not the reality we live in. That is not the country we have been given. We do not exist in a time and place where our leadership respects our votes or the votes and rulings of his own government. Frankly, I don't have a solution. I don't have an answer. I'm not a political scientist. I'm not a politician. I'm not a leader or influential figure in any leftist group. I'm a person on the internet who's affected by multiple facets of our current government as it shifts further and further into authoritarianism. I don't see an end to this where it peacefully moves to the next president after 4 years, where our country goes back to how it was, even if I didn't particularly like it that way either. I don't see an end where we get anything other than a theocratic state or a civil war. There has been too many loyalists installed, too many overt threats to government officials and military leaders, too many disregards for the laws and checks and balances, and of course, importantly, far, far too much money involved. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am wrong. Maybe his people turn on him and refuse to carry out his requests. Maybe no one will do them whenever he inevitably finds a way to remove anyone who opposes him from their position of power, just as he threatens military officials. I hope that's the reality we end this chapter of our history on. That him and his people are simply outnumbered and we can walk away with a scar on our country but nothing more. But to be frank, I'm not optimistic for that future. At the start of this video, I added a reminder that my content does not exist to perpetuate violence as a political act, that it simply serves to show that we are heading rather quickly towards a reality where our options for change may be so far whittled down that violence is the only option we have left. And I want to end this video with that reminder that we are not yet in a full dictatorship or authoritarian state, and that while voting is still a good action that you should take, it's also already not enough. You need to protest, you need to organize, you need to stand up for yourself and your community. Record ICE officers and police brutality. Attend every protest that you're able to. Make and donate food in your community or money if you're able to. Be kind to each other, including people you may have been taught to look down upon, like unhoused people, addicts, or impoverished people. Hell, do what I do and make yourself a walking protest. Remind people who support this administration that people everywhere oppose them. Put bumper stickers all over your car. Wear clothing that shares your views. Dress punk. And most importantly, don't just look that way, but uphold those values. If you witness someone being treated poorly, or you yourself are, don't sit down and take it. Don't be a bystander. I know this video is a bit scattered compared to my past content. It's not as organized or point A, point B, sources with a thesis kind of type thing. But I felt like it was something I needed to get out and that maybe some people would benefit from hearing, even if I really don't have a solution to give you. I hope that in the future, things don't turn out how they look like they might now. I hope that I'm being a pessimist, that I'm being negative, that maybe I'm over-exaggerating the way things will go. I do truly hope that that's the case. And it might be. We might get lucky and that might be the case, but I know a lot of people share that feeling that I'm currently having about the way things are going. So that's all I've got for today, guys. If you like my content and want to support it, like and subscribe. If you want to support me financially and continuing to make content, check out my Ko-fi in the description or drop me a super thanks. If I pissed you off, dislike that shit, it'll still boost me in the algorithm. See you guys in the next one. Ha de.
The children think too much, they've hardly a fear of God, always asking questions they should only wish away.